Hey everybody, it's your friend Sarmate here, and I am bringing you a new series of The Wandering Village. I hope you're having a fantastic and amazing day today. Now to get started, I'm going to go ahead and have the game paused. We've got a couple buildings we want to lay down. We're going to go ahead and get into the building menu to do so. First couple buildings I like to start with are going to be the research buildings. We're going to do 2 of these guys. And we're also going to do 2 worker posts. So we're going to go ahead and get these guys getting built in here. Just a couple basic things. The worker posts we'll get into once they get built up. I can show you what they do. And the research buildings are going to start research. That's pretty straightforward. We got our next research. We're going to go ahead and get with the horn blower. So we'll get that started up. So the reason why I wanted 2 of them is because we get to 140% research speed. Pretty good. The one thing that matters in this game is poison. Poison is kind of your biggest enemy. So my hope with building the 2 researchers and having the increased research rate is that we're kind of racing the Anbu to getting to the spores. We want to be able to deal with the spores before Anbu runs into them, and that's what we're going to start working with the research stuff right away here. We are also going to want to get into some material storage, a water tank, and a pantry. Get those guys going. But as you can see, everybody's standing around, twiddling their thumbs. So we have to mark some stuff for gathering. But before we do that, get to our worker post, and you can see here we have general workers selected, and only 2 people are assigned to a job here. So what we want to do is make this to be all 5 people. We'll do that on both, and this is going to give these people a small movement speed boost. You're running around all over anyway, why not do it slightly faster? So we're going to go here to the harvest tool. We're going to make sure that we have fully grown objects and everything selected. We're going to go ahead and pick up some trees. So they're going to go out, gather those trees up. Another thing we're going to need to get started is rocks. So we'll mark those rocks, and we'll continue to mark a few more trees down here. We're going to need all of them. Not seeing any more rocks right away. Here we go. A couple more down here. Now, as you're going through, you might notice these little spike guys. So if we check these out, these are the Anbu spikes. They can be harvested, but they reduce Anbu's trust in you. And that really matters for the beginning of this game. So don't harvest the spikes just yet. The reason why the trust is going to matter is because we're going to get to the point with the hornblower where we are going to be able to communicate with the Anbu and give it some direction on which way to go, which crossroads to go down, how fast to walk or run, and it only does that if it trusts you. So you gotta get 1 feed in before it's gonna be able to trust you. Do the spikes, you take the spikes out of there, it might take a little bit more. So the plan that I have is going to require us to not harvest any spikes right away. But in the meantime, we're gonna continue to gather some things around. We gotta keep harvesting, keep selecting things. This is going to be a recurring theme here for quite a while until we get into some more advanced buildings. Now, the hornblower, I know, is going to require some planks, and planks require refinement of logs. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to find our carpenter, and we're going to get a carpenter started. A couple other things we're going to need here is get some housing for some people. So we're going to do 8 houses. We have 16 total people, and each house has 2 people in it. So we're going to go ahead and lay 8 out here. Okay, there's 8. They're going to go ahead and get started on those. So the general workers are doing general work. They're builders, they're gatherers, they're carrying stuff. You can change the assignments to builders, carriers, or harvesters. The builders are going to be focused only on building. You can have stuff marked. If everybody's a builder, it's not going to get gathered. So this is all great, but we don't have any food coming in. And you can see here that our food details, we are currently losing about minus 30 food because we aren't producing anything. There's a couple of bushes around here like these guys, and these are berries, and they can be gathered with the berry gatherer. So we're going to go ahead and get this guy, but we want to make sure our efficiency is as high as possible. It looks like we can get about 63 as good as it can get. So we'll go ahead and we'll get that thing placed and get started with it. Now, we did build our water tank, but a water tank doesn't replenish itself by itself. We're going to need an air well for that. So we're going to go ahead and also grab an air well. We'll probably do 2. So the air well works depending on which biome you're in. So in this game, we have 3 views. We have our village view, our Anbu view, and then our world map. So this green is a jungle biome. The pink is mountain. And there's a tan one, which is desert. So when we're in this jungle biome, we have high humidity. So we're getting a lot of water through our air wells once they're built up. I'll show you those in just a second. We got some more people standing around. Let's go ahead and keep marking stuff. I'm going to mark a whole bunch of trees up here and a couple of these rocks. So I noticed that there are a couple colored trees around here, and you'd be wondering what the heck's the deal with those. The deal with these are, they are mother trees, so they will spawn saplings around, and you can gather those saplings and create kind of a tree farm. So don't cut down your mother trees unless they're like right in the middle of your building area. Like this little bundle of them, this is awesome. I'm gonna keep this just as it is. I might harvest these trees out of here, but I'm going to leave the yellow ones where they're at. We're still waiting on that air well, but in the meantime, we could work on some other things. So we have the berry gatherer for food, right? There's also farming in this game, but we're going to ignore this farm just for a little bit. But we want to get into the herbalist. The herbalist and the mycologist and the farm, the UI all works the same, but the mycologist and the herbalist are not considered farms. So we're going to go ahead and grab the herbalist to get started. We have this brown area and we have this green area. The building can be placed on either of them, but you can only grow herbs on the grass and you can only grow mushrooms in the dirt. So you can see if we put the building here, the dots on the left are darker colored. We won't be able to place any plots there, but the dots on the right side are white, so we can place plots there. We're going to go ahead and put this guy about right in here, and we'll utilize that space to grow some herbs. Okay, so we got our hornblower done. We're going to open up the tree, and we're going to check out the next thing, which is going to be under resources. We got dung collector and bile extractor. The thing I want to focus on is the bile extractor. And the reason for this is it's going to produce fuel that is going to be used by the decontaminator. And this is going to be the thing that fights the spores when they inevitably infect Anbu's back. So that's what we're racing. We're trying to get to that point where we have the decontaminator up and there's fuel available. So when we inevitably run into a cloud or walk through a spore forest, we'll be able to deal with it. It's much, much simpler to use the decontaminator to deal with the poison stuff versus gathering each individual plant that's toxified. It takes way too long. You got to have the decontaminator in there, and we'll definitely get that working here hopefully before we run into some poison. That's the goal. So we got our hornblower done. We're going to go ahead and click this guy. And notice we can't build it in this space. We got to go all the way up to the front of Anbu. This is so that the Anbu can hear the horn. We're going to go ahead and place this guy. Going to require 10 wood and 5 planks, so that's why we got our carpenter started right away. Well on our way to having our first couple planks, and the quicker this thing gets done, the happier I'm going to be. It's just having the first key thing to communicate with the Anbu built up. It's nice to have it checked off the list. We got our first air well built up, and you can see because we were in the humid area, you can see that from the right side up here where it says humid, we're at 150% production speed. So if this guy is making 3 water every time this bar fills up, and its inventory is 45. So once that inventory is full, it's going to go over to the water tank and put water in the water tank. If the water tank is full, it's going to have a little flag that says, hey, we can't do anything, fix it, and you got to fix it. Another thing for refinement we can get into is the stone cutter. This thing is going to take rocks and make those into stone slabs, and we want those for sure, as well as the mycologist. So here we go, we got our mycologist. This guy is going to place mushrooms that are going to be refined into Anbu food. So we're going to go ahead and get this guy going. You can see that it is light colored in the brown area. So that means we can place mushrooms there. So we'll go ahead and kind of put it right on the border about right there. Have plenty of space for some mushrooms. We'll get that going on the way. Our berry gatherer is good to go. I am going to open up another spot so you can see we have room for 2 more people here. When it's like this, you will only be able to put 2 people total in here. So we're going to add 1 more. So what we're going to do is go back to our worker post and subtract 2 people from this. And then you can see they're on their way to the berry gatherer and to become 2 new berry gatherers. So that's more berries coming in to feed the people. We really need it. We're at 11 food. We're not doing super great. So we'll get that first one working. And I am going to start putting in a second one. We are going to ignore regular farms for now. 54, we're going to go ahead and grab every single berry around there. That's awesome. Our second air well is good to go, and we're going to go ahead and build yet another water tank. Now, the reason why I'm doing this is we will eventually run into a desert biome that does not have any water in the air. So if you have a little stockpile of water, you'll be able to continue working on your farms. The plants each use 1 water per plot. So if you don't have any water, you're not getting any plants, you can run into some big problems with that. So that's kind of why I'm building up the storage here while we are still in the jungle biome. Oh, we're not in the jungle biome. So yeah, we have since moved on to the mountain biome. We are still getting some water, it's just not nearly as much. We have a little decision, so let's click on this. Nomads. You encountered a small group of nomads looking for a new home. Will you let them join? We can pick them up, send them away, choose later, or commit. We'll commit. We get 3 people, that's going to put us up to 19 total people. And as the Anbu traverses this path, we're going to run into some things. This is a little food, this is a sleeping spot, this is a cold snap. So that's going to reduce the air temperature to, well, it's already cold. I don't know what's below cold, super cold. And what that's going to do is affect our plants. So we don't have any plants just yet, but once we do, it's going to affect them. The berries are not affected by this. So we're still waiting on our hornblower. Our herbalist is almost complete, and our mycologist is almost complete. Yeah, but these won't be affected by that cold snap. Let's continue to mark stuff for gathering. This is something that we're going to just keep doing. Got to keep going and getting our logs and our rocks gathered up. We are now gaining food. You can see that our consumption is 13 and our production is 21 just from this one berry gatherer. So it's doing its job. As we continue to gain more people, of course, we are going to need more berries or some farms happening. By the way, your people won't eat the mushrooms. That's only for Anbu, so keep that in mind as well. Our herbalist did get complete. So we have 1 worker here. We have plots, so we can add or subtract plots. We can either plant or harvest the herbs in this case. And here's what I was talking about with the water. So because it's freezing right now, if we had plants, they would be decomposing. 200% decomposition. That's a big deal. Keep that in mind as you run into these cold snaps too. If we were in the jungle biome, this would be in the center. I think this is going to be on yellow since we are in the mountains. It's a little cool, but it's not freezing. These also have 20 water in the inventory to begin with. So we're going to go ahead and add plots. If you don't add plots, you will never ever grow any herbs. You got to lay out the farms. So we do have a mother tree here that I'm going to take out. That's not part of our big group over here. And we almost have our mycologist done as well. And we are still, in the meantime, continuing to do that research, continuing to get things learned. We did get the dung collector learned. Collects dung from Anbu, which can be used to produce biogas and fertilizer. So you can only put the dung collector in the back here for obvious reasons. So we're going to go ahead and place that. But I am going to... Ooh, I thought I could pause it. We'll just let it go. I didn't want to put a bunch of resources into that because we're not going to be utilizing it just yet. But I don't think it'll hurt anything to get it built up. So we did get our mycologist ready to go. This UI is exactly the same as the herbalist and as the farms. You got your number of workers, adding and subtracting plots, plant harvest. Again, the water and the temperature, the current temperature and inventory. We got to add plots. Let's go ahead and get a bunch of mushrooms on the way. So this guy is saying, hey, we don't have any resources to do any more logs. So we're just kind of hanging out. So keep that in mind. That's an idle worker. It's not something you want to have for too long. Oh, we did get 3 more people. So we are going to need to add in 2 more tents. So a quick little trick that I learned is that if you are going to build something and you just click once, you have to re-click the whatever thing you're building. But if you hold left shift, you can create more than one at a time. We're going to go ahead and get those things built up. This airwell is now at max inventory. That's what that little flag means. So it's not gaining any more water. That means well, I guess our water tanks aren't full. We're waiting for a general worker to come over here, take the water out of this and put it into here. We might need a couple more apparently. We have 8. I would think that would be enough. Oh, we probably have a couple idols. Nope, we don't. Okay, so you can check out the population details up here. Total people versus housing, housing quality, hunger, productivity. And then this is a quick glance at employment. You can see how many people you have total, and then unemployed, and then general, carriers, builders, and harvesters. Really nice little clean thing there. All right, so we got our mycologist planting its mushrooms. The herbalist is planting its herbs. It's awesome. We need this stuff on the way here. Now, if we take a quick peek at the world map, this is something you want to do periodically. You want to know what's coming up. In this case, we didn't have the option to control Anbu's direction, but you do get a little prompt here. Anbu seems unsure about which path to take at the upcoming crossroads. When you see that, you want to come up here into the world map and then be able to designate which direction. So we'll check that out, and I'll show you that as soon as we get our hornblower up and our trust up. And the way to get the trust up is with one feeding session and we'll do that with the trebuchet. Once we get the Anbu kitchen, there's a lot of little steps that we got to get before we're able to control Anbu, but it's such a key crucial thing in this game. Speaking of which, our research tree is ready to roll. So we have the bile extractor completed. We also have our hornblower good to go. The Anbu kitchen and the feeding trebuchet are something we want to get. Before either of those, we're going to go for the decontaminator. So what this is going to do is it's going to use the fuel from the bile extractor to burn up the poison plants, and that's going to stop them from spreading. It's a very, very important thing. You need the decontaminator to decontaminate Anbu's back. So we're going to go ahead and get that research started, and then we will go Anbu kitchen and then trebuchet after that. We have a little prompt here. More nomads. We're going to pick them up. 2 more people joined. So what this did is push us over 20. So what that does is our population levels up. Our villagers' needs have increased. Check them in the top bar. So that you click this, we are now a camp. We now have food quality as something to keep in mind. What that means is we're going to need a kitchen to refine some of our berries or our beets or whatever, corn, whatever you're growing for food. We don't have a regular farm, so we don't have any beets or carrots yet. We're just worried about our berries, and we don't even have the kitchen yet, so we don't have to worry about that. But our bile extractor, we want to get this thing going right away also. But it only can be built in certain spots. Well, a certain spot, and that's right here. This is over Anbu's gallbladder, extracts bile from Anbu's gallbladder. So we're going to go ahead and plop that guy down. And that's going to work. I like this over the dung collector because the dung collector takes a worker, whereas the bile extractor doesn't. The dung can be processed into the same fuel that the bile extractor is going to create for the decontaminators to use. I just prefer the bile extractor because it's a passive. It doesn't require a worker. Super, super powerful, I think. Anbu is currently taking a nap. So these little flowery looking things are Anbu's sleeping spots. It's going to automatically sleep in those if it's tired enough. Similarly, we have some food right here. If it's hungry enough, Anbu will eat there. And then further down the line, we have yet another cold snap. So things to keep in mind as we traverse along the world here. There's a lot of other little icon-y things out here, and we're just going to ignore those for now. They will be utilized with the scavenger hut. All right, we did get our kitchen learned. We're going to go ahead and place this guy down about right there. We got our hornblower ready to go. You have to have a full staff in here. This is just one person. So there's several buildings that require full staff. This is the first one we run into. So what this is going to unlock, we have 2 ways to get there. So we can say show interactions. This brings us to the Anbu screen. We can command it to lie down, walk, or run, but it's going to ignore our commands right now if we try and do this. Anbu doesn't trust us. We need to get one feeding in. A quick way to see how Anbu's feeling about you is the Anbu will really wag its head back and forth. It gets into this this groove. It'll say down here, Anbu wags its tail. It looks real happy. So that's how you know Anbu is really feeling good about you, and then you will be ensured that it will listen to your commands. So we got to get to that point. We did get our village doctor completed and learned, so we're going to get one placed, and this is going to be the first thing that is going to use our medicinal herbs to heal our people. So when those poison clouds come over the top, it's not only going to put poison spores on the plants, it can also make your villagers sick directly, and the doctor is the way to counter that. So we need to have that going as well. So our plants are looking good here. It doesn't take too long for stuff to start growing and get harvested. You can see up here we have 25 herbs and 36 mushrooms already. Once we get the Anbu kitchen, it's going to take 20 mushrooms to make 1 Anbu food. So it takes quite a bit. So that's why I wanted to get this thing going right away. Store those mushrooms. We don't have to worry about spoilage in this game, so we can have a lot stored up. All right, so we got our decontaminator research. We're going to go ahead and open the research tree and begin under Anbu to work toward the feeding trebuchet. The first thing is going to be the Anbu kitchen, which is going to, again, make mushrooms into Anbu food. And then the feeding trebuchet is going to fling those mushroom balls to Anbu's face, and Anbu will eat the mushrooms. After all that, then we're going to go for the scavenger hut. Well, let's go ahead and get our decontaminator placed. We need 10 wood planks and 10 stone slabs, so it's going to take a little bit, but I am going to prioritize this thing. That's how important this thing is to get built up. We have to have this ready for when we run into poison spores. So let's go to the world map again and see what the world looks like. We have managed to avoid poison spores so far, but again, another cold snap. as we are about to walk into the desert. And then we have another sleeping spot and then a hot spell. So go cold and hot right here. So as we walk into the desert, it's going to be harder and harder for us to gather water, which is then going to hurt our farms. And when I say farm, I'm including the mycologist and the herbalist in that. So what we want to do is as soon as we get the trebuchet built up, we want to go for the cactus plantation. So what that's going to do is allow us to grow cacti and turn that into water, which will then be able to be used to continue to grow our mushrooms and our medicinal herbs. These are very, very key important things. Down the road here, we will need to have these operating. If you run into a spore and you can't heal anybody, people are going to start dying, and it's just going to snowball. It's not great. So we have to put in a farm. Let's go ahead and do that. We want to use as much space for this guy, I think. So we're going to go about right in here. That looks pretty good. Get that thing built up. So we did get our bile extractor completed as well. So this is the fuel that is going to be used by the decontaminators to burn those poison plants. So you can see we already have 48 stored up, and we are creating more based off of the Anbu's heart rate, which is currently declining to 1.5 because it's sleeping. When Anbu's up and walking around as normal, it's at 3 beats per minute, and we can increase it further by running. But I try not to do that because Anbu gets tired much more quickly when you're running, and that can lead to some problems. I've had it before where Anbu will be walking along and there's a hot patch of sand, and it will fall asleep in that hot patch of sand, which will then decrease its health. And once it gets to a certain point, I believe it's under 10%, Anbu will not be able to stand back up, and you will lose the game unless you can heal it. So again, there's those herbs coming in. You gotta be able to have a good stockpile to help heal Anbu in that case. We are going to continue to have the priority of the decontaminator. We're gonna get those working, and we are going to call it for this episode of The Wandering Village. Thanks for coming and hanging out. I hope you enjoyed this one. This is a really unique game. I really think it's cool and fun. I hope you do too, and I hope to see you on the next one. Have a great rest of your evening, day, or night.